What are the targets of the federal government in this regard, and how did the people receive the news? All these questions are answered in today's edition of Dateline. Welcome to Dateline. Good evening. Babatunde Bolatito is my name. First, the hard news segment. The Center for Social Justice, Equity and Transparency has appealed to President Muhammadu Buhari to sign the National Youth Service Corps Trust Fund bill. The Executive Secretary of the organization, Mr. Ipe Astik, made the appeal in a statement in Abuja. He stated that the bill, when signed into law, will help create jobs and curb graduate unemployment. He explained that the trust fund will have to provide startup capital for the corps members at the end of their service. Mr. Isaac stated that during the service, the corps members are taught a number of skills to enable them to become independent entrepreneurs, creating jobs and solving problems in their environment. He further noted that the fund had become one of the best things to happen to Nigeria and its unity in years, in order to give hope to the youth for a better future and create a better country. The Independent National Electoral Commission has revealed that some key political actors and stakeholders in the country are not comfortable with the Electoral Act 2022 and will prefer a return to the old act. The Commission also warned that the tendency for hate speech and fake news by the political elite and political parties could constitute a direct threat to the conduct of peaceful elections in Nigeria. The INEC National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, stated this during an interface with media and civil society organizations on identifying and mitigating flashpoints of electoral misinformation and disinformation organized by the International Press Center in Abuja. Mr. Okoye said some of the critical stakeholders in the electoral process had not made the transition from the Electoral Act 2010 as amended to the Electoral Act 2022, while some of them are still quoting sections of the law that have either been repealed or amended. Okoye, while insisting on the deployment of biomodal voters accreditation system for the 2023 elections, observed that a regime of misinformation and disinformation has been afoot in relation to the deployment of beavers for voter accreditation and authentication. The leadership of the Presidential Campaign Organization of the People's Democratic Party has approved the appointment of Osun State Governor, Senator Ademola Adeleke, as a member of the Campaign Council. A statement by the Director General of the Campaign Organization, Governor Aminu Tambuwal, announced that Governor Adeleke is appointed as the chairman of the Southwest Coordinating Committee of the Council. Other key PDP members are also appointed to head strategic campaign offices to steer the Atiku Abubakar presidential bid. Senator Dino Melaye is appointed the Director of Public Affairs. Osun State government has dismissed and has outright falsehood the insinuation by a first-list group that it plans to divert the short period fund recently released to local governments in the state. A release made available to OSBC News noted that jobless officials of the past administration were bitter that their plot to squander the fund was exposed and stalled by Governor Adeleke's team, even as an opposition party. Then, according to the release, the insinuation was a calculated attempt by agents of the past administration to pollute the minds of Osun people with lies after it was stopped from pilfering the fund. Meanwhile, Osun State Governor Senator Ademola Adeleke has been enjoined to improve on the technique of revenue generation in order to have the wherewithal to deliver on his electioneering promises to the people of the state. A renowned economist, Mr. Hamza Solanke, stated this by speaking with OSBC News against the backdrop of the need to make the state self-reliant, while noting that the challenges often encountered by individuals in payment of taxes and other levies. He emphasized on the need to make the payment less stressful. He speaks.
There are lots of ways to ensure proper revenue generation. First of all, the technology to apply in collecting money is very important. The tax nets, widening, and broadening the tax net is a very key factor, in revenue collection. So and then blocking leakages. So all of these things are things that I think the new government have in mind, and I'm very sure they are going to work towards it.
The economist who also spoke on the cash withdrawal limit and cashless policies of the CBN called for improved banking system and services before the final implementation, while maintaining that policies are capable of impacting positively on the economy. He warned the CBN to be cautious on the approach so as to avoid policy somersault.
You brought out a policy of limited cash withdrawal, where the electronic transfer payment system is not functioning well. If somebody transfer money to somebody and the person has been debited, but the receiver has not received the money, it doesn't give service or release the merchandise to the payer. And if the person here is so desperate that this is an emergency for me and he wants to withdraw cash, now you are stopping him again from withdrawing cash, saying he is going to exceed the limit. What kind of confusion is that?
The African Union and Africa Development Bank has ranked Nigeria's seat in the African Visa Openness Report. The report, which is the 7th edition, was released at 2022 African Economic Conference being held in Balaclava, Mauritius, today. It noted that Benin, Seychelles, and the Gambia ranked first, second, and third, respectively. The data for the 2022 edition was collected in July and August, with men from the International Air Transport Association and countries' official websites. It has reported that 48 countries out of 54 now offer visa-free travel to nationals of at least one other African country. Furthermore, 42 countries offer visa-free travel to the nationals of at least 5 other countries in Africa, and 3 countries offer visa-free travel to citizens of other countries in the continent. Moreover, 29 countries now offer visa on arrival to the nationals of at least one other African country. The federal government has been called upon to repair the existing refineries as well as put in place new ones in all geopolitical zones in order to relieve the bottlenecks in the supply and distribution chain so as to resolve the problem of fuel crisis in the country. Vice Chairman, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, Oyo and Osun State Branch, Alhaji Lawal Muideen, made a call while speaking with OSBC News after participating on OSBC TV current affairs program Saturday morning treat against the backdrop of fuel shortage and price hike in the country. IPMAN Vice Chairman, who also lamented fuel price hike, said members of the association have no choice other than to sell what they buy because they are being forced to buy from private depot owners who sell at an exorbitant price because of lack of supply to conventional depot. He speaks.
If federal government can build another refinery to our country, we keep seeing it all the time. As at this moment, we didn't have any functional refinery in Nigeria, which is very bad. A state in America, Texas, have 27 functional refineries, and we are called ourselves a giants of Africa. What are we giants for? So if they can build a refinery, the problem will solve. Alternatively, if you can't do that, they should regulate.
The Elenimo of Elimo Ijesha, Oba Michael Ajayi, has reiterated his commitment towards peace and progress of Elimo town. Oba Ajayi gave the assurance in the Ejimajesha in Oriade local government area of the state while commemorating the 2022 Agida Founders Day. Soya Onoride has more of the story.
In line with the tradition of Agidonyin Founders Day of Ejimajesha in Oriade local government area of Osun State, this year's celebration kicked off with traditional chiefs from across Ejimajesha, hunters, market women, socio-cultural groups, associations, sons and daughters observing obeisance for Elerim of Ejimajesha, Oba Michael Odunayo Ajayi, traditional Bembe drummers of Ijesha land, as well as other traditional drummers, entertained the royal father and his guests to spice up the 2022 Agidonyin Founders Day. Traditional chiefs, including Lebedo, Edima, Alafaju, in accordance with the Agidonyin traditional rite, took turn to pray for the monarch as well as for the people of Ejimajesha and the town. Oba Michael Odunayo Ajayi, resplendent in elegant costume befitting the annual cultural festival, performed the symbolic royal blessing for his subjects, Erimotan, Osun State, and Nigeria at large, using different symbolic cultural objects in ensuring positive outcome, just as the chairman of 2022 Founders Day, Chief Taiwo Agbomogbe, implore Ejimajesha indigenes, homes and abroad, to support Oba Odunayo Ajayi towards peace and progress of Ejimajesha town.
Do this annually to remember him very well, and I use this opportunity to talk to all the indigenes and friends, associates of Erimo, that God will bless them, that it shall be well with them, they shall come against no evil. I also pray for peace and comfort and progress for Osun State, and I pray for the peace in Nigeria.
The Erimo must come together. The people of sons and daughters should come together and develop the town. They should support Aro Tawaya. The second
high point of the occasion was cultural dance, comedy session, cash donation to physically challenged individuals, widows, as well as less privileged citizens of Ejimajesha by Elerim of Ejimajesha, Oba Michael Odunayo Ajayi. Dignitaries from across the state graced the occasion. Soya Onoride reporting for OSBC News.
Welcome to our sports segment. Morocco have extended their dream run at the World Cup as they outthought and outfought Portugal in stunning 1-0 win to become the first ever African country to reach the final. And Nesri leapt high in the air to head home the game's only goal just before half-time at the Al Tumama Stadium to strike a significant blow against football established order and book a semi-final ticket on Wednesday. Morocco had already beaten Belgium and Spain in a tournament, but the win over Portugal is nothing short of remarkable. It's also one of the better performances in Qatar so far, full of determined defending and keeping at bay a collection of world stars despite losing key defender Nayef Aguero to injury before the match, and his back four partner and captain Romain Saiz Ele in the second half. Now to a foreign story. Thousands of protesters marched in Morocco's capital Rabat this morning, decrying the high cost of living and repression amid surging inflation and rising global discontent. Details of this and other stories are packaged by Abdul Jalil Adebisi of our foreign desk.
lockdowns. Top epidemiologist Zhong Nanzan told newsmen today that the Omicron strain of the virus prevalent in China was highly transmissible. Report says the people want to lower prices of essential goods, eliminate despotism and corruption. A coordinator from the Moroccan Social Front group of political parties and left-wing trade unions that organized the rally, Young Verachim, stated that they are protesting against the government that embodies the marriage of money and power. The report says people converged from across Morocco for the protest, which was also called to highlight the cases of several jailed bloggers and journalists. It adds that consumer price inflation is 7.1% year-on-year, due in large part to surging food prices triggered partly by an intense drought that has hit farmers. Rafiqul Islam has joined the tens of thousands of opposition supporters in the capital Dakar, but he had to fake his name to evade detention ahead of the anti-government rally. The police in the South Asian nation had arrested hundreds of supporters from the main opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which had called for the rally to protest against price rises and demand the resignation of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Mr. Islam said it was BNP's last of a series of rallies organized across the country in the past weeks to demand new elections under a neutral caretaker government. One of China's top health experts has warned of a surge in COVID cases as shops and restaurants in Beijing are deserted as the country awaits a spike in infections following the decision to reduce the scope of mandatory testing, allow some positive cases to quarantine at home and end large-scale lockdowns. Top epidemiologist Zhong Nanzan told newsmen today that the Omicron strain of the virus prevalent in China was highly transmissible and could lead to a surge in cases. The easing of China's so-called zero-COVID policy followed nationwide protests against harsh virus rules that had battered the economy and confined millions to their homes. The report says the country is now facing a surge of cases it is ill-prepared to handle, with millions of elderly still not fully vaccinated and underfunded hospitals lacking the capacity to take on huge numbers of patients. Rescuers in Jersey today said after an all-night search that there was no hope of survival from an explosion that flattered a three-story apartment block. Earlier, at least 3 people were confirmed killed in the blast in Channel Islands port capital, St. Helier, following a suspected gas leak. A police chief, Robin Smith, told a news conference saying that around 12 residents remained unaccounted for. The next phase of search involved a meticulous and painstaking search of the debris, which could take weeks, aided by sniffer dogs and experts from southern England. Jersey emergency workers had searched the rubble overnight. Abdul Jalil at DBC or ABC News.
We now go on a short break. Dateline continues in a moment. Welcome to the Dateline segment. In the past week, Osun State Governor Senator Ademola Adeleke sworn in Mr. Anyole Yaino as the state head of service and charged him to bring his wealth of experience to bear in repositioning the state civil service. In the same week, Governor Ademola Adeleke played host to the presidential candidate of his political party, the People's Democratic Party, and his running mate, Ifeanyi Okowa, as the presidential campaign train of the PDP birthday in Osogbo, the state capital. Other prominent party leaders from all over the country were on ground for the campaign. Governor's office correspondent Abraham Adekileku now brings you detail.
Having completed the swearing in of the new head of service, the governor headed to Ile-Ife where he led the PDP Presidential Campaign Council to the palace of the Ooni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi Ojaja II. One of the things that attracted the attention of Dateline was the rich cultural display at the palace. MSL Otun, MSL Osi, and the representative of Eshu Odara, who was clad in black and red attire with a horn on his head. They all sang and danced to the gong, known as Agogo in Yoruba land, talking drum and shekere. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, while addressing the traditional father, said he is running for the presidency to rescue Nigeria from the pangs of maladministration that has resulted into unprecedented inflation and insecurity.
We believe it is time for you, the people of this country, to give us another opportunity again so that we can restore the unity of this country, so that we can secure the country again, and so that we can make this country more prosperous than any other country in the continent of Africa as we did before.
The event climaxed with a grand convergence on the Freedom Park, Osogbo, the Osun State capital, where the governor, Senator Ademola Adeleke, called on the people of Osun State to vote for the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the 2023 general election in order to bring an end to insecurity, unemployment, and economic hardship that are bedeviling Nigerians.
Those two things, if you don't have rule of law in any country, you have failed. If you don't have due process, that country has failed. I'm promising you, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar will bring back rule of law and due process so that everything can go on. In terms of security, I've been speaking to him. I can see a lot of crowd here, but that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your PVC. You have to hold it. You have to use it the way you use it for a model, because that is your power. Power belongs to people.
If by returning PDP to power, you will strengthen this authority by voting PDP in the next general elections. Because a federal government controlled by PDP and a state government controlled by PDP in Osun State is to the greater good of Osun people.
Atiku ló mọ̀nà, Atiku nìkan ló lè ṣe é. Nígbà ẹ̀yin ọmọ Ọ̀ṣun, mo ní kẹ́ wá gbé mi lárugẹ. Ẹ wá gbé mi lárugẹ. Ẹ má jẹ́ kójú tì mí lé ọkọ mi. Ẹ má jẹ́ kọ́kọ́ mi sọ fún mi wípé kò tán díẹ̀ náà pẹ̀lú gbogbo làlàkó kò fẹ́ díẹ̀ tó sọ fún mi pé àwọn èèyàn ẹ pé wọ́n dúró tì mí gidigidi. Wọ́n ti sọ fún yín wípé tí ẹ bá dìbò fún Àtíkù, ìmọ́lẹ̀ lẹ dìbò fún.
It was indeed a moment of celebration and glorious homecoming for the governor of Osun State, Senator Ademola Adeleke, when he arrived at the venue of the year 2022 Ede Day, which held in Ede High School. Addressing his kinsmen, Governor Adeleke said, governance is a joint venture which requires that everybody must play his or her part for the desired development to come to pass. Senator Adeleke, while appreciating indigenes that come from far and near, asserted that all hands must be on deck to complement the government. He called on all residents of the state to collaborate with one another in forming a common front regardless of political or religious differences. Senator Adeleke lauded the people for voting for him massively in the last gubernatorial election and promised that his administration will not renege on those things he promised them during campaign.
So èmi ọmọ yìí tó sọmọ ẹgbẹ́ láìpẹ́ láì jìnnà á máa bára wọn sọ̀rọ̀ ọba bẹ́ẹ̀ tó ìgbìmọ̀ yóò lọ kí Ọlọ́run ṣe dáadáa sí wa.
Earlier, the Timi of Edeland, Oba Muniruddin Adeshola Lawal Laminisa I, had commended the governor and his team and appealed to his subjects to continue to support the government. Oba Adeshola, while appealing to the invited guests to donate generously for the development of Edeland, called on the descendant union to make judicious use of the proceeds. In her goodwill messages, Yeyelu Adupe Adeleke Sani commended the Kabiyesi and the entire indigents of Ede for the unflinching support given to the state governor, Senator Ademola Adeleke, and prayed for a successful tenure that will meet the yearnings and aspirations of the people of Osun State. High point of the event was the conferment of awards on some deserving individuals and compounds, while a substantial amount of money was raised. For Dateline, it has been Abdurrahim Adekileku reporting.
The approval given by the federal government for the usage of mother tongue as a medium of instruction in primary schools in Nigeria have been received with mixed feeling by stakeholders in the education sector. While some see it as a way to go in the repositioning of education sector, others have expressed concern over the implementation of such revolutionary decision in a country highly characterized by inconsistency and policy somersault. Dateline takes a look at the issues surrounding the use of mother tongue and its implications on the growth of education in Nigeria.
Education refers to any form of schooling which uses the language or languages that children are most familiar with in order to help them learn. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has been leading the way and advocating for multilingual education based on the mother tongue from the earliest years of schooling. Research has shown that education in the mother tongue is a key factor for inclusion and quality learning, which improves learning experience outcome and academic performance. Nigeria, a former British colony, retained the use of English language as a lingua franca in school and all official gatherings, and French was adopted as a second official language being taught in schools. The reality of Nigeria as a multi-ethnic nation, which can boast of over 625 languages, has never been in doubt. However, over the years, these languages have been relegated to the background and most often described as vernacular when used in schools. The situation may likely change now that the federal government has approved the use of mother tongue as a medium of instruction for pupils in primary 1 to 6. The approval of the new national language policy, which makes mother tongue compulsory in primary schools, was announced by the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu Adamu. He explained that the mother tongue to be used in each school would be dominant language spoken by the community where the school is located and would be combined with English in secondary school.
When the policy is fully operational, each locality will teach students in primary 1 up to 6 in their own mother tongue, because research has shown that pupils learn much better when instruction is in their mother tongue at that level. But even at that time, while they are getting instruction in their mother tongue, they will be taught other Nigerian languages of their choice, and then they will be taught the international languages at certain stage: English, French, Arabic, and so on.
Prominent stakeholders in the education sector, including former Permanent Secretary in Osun State, Mr. Kola Buhari, Vice Chancellor of Osun State University, Professor Clement Adeboye, Comrade Akin Adeujo, lauded the initiative of the federal government in approving such a life-changing policy aimed at repositioning the education sector and improving teaching and learning experience.
You know, the local language, which starts, it begins from the mother, right from home. So it's like continuation in school. It makes them to understand better. They appreciate the teacher, whoever is teaching them. And it makes the relationship to be very cordial and intimate.
Do you know that most of the children of today cannot read Yoruba books? They don't know the meaning of the accents, the intonations of the Yoruba people. We have a way of saying things in Yoruba land. There are things we don't say. You know, in Yoruba studies, when I was in school, they taught us how our parents use the eyes to communicate with us, how to use scrubbing the leg on the ground to communicate with us as children, how to bang the table. It's a form of communication. They taught me this all this in primary school. I doubt if there's any of our children today who understands any of this kind of things. So it's a good thing for us.
In fact, it will even aid their advancement of technology, because you see, if these things are being taught in their own modern language, like it is being done in countries like Japan and the rest, I think is good.
Speaking on the contrary, another stakeholder, Chief Wale Oyeniyi, described the new policy as confusing, going by the fact that the instructional materials being used in Nigerian schools are all written in English language. He expressed fears that the policy may limit the exposure of the pupils, especially when they want to further their education in other countries.
If they say this using mother tongue as a medium of instruction, not even as a subject, but medium of instruction, are they saying that, for instance, in Yoruba land now, in Osogbo now, only Yoruba, only pupils from Yoruba, anybody from Igbo, from Hausa that comes, are they saying should not go to primary school or must learn Yoruba first before he or she starts education? When they get to secondary school, how will they pick English language? We should remember that all our books, scientific books, are written in English language, not in our mother tongue. How will they cope with biology, chemistry, and physics terminologies for our children to go to abroad if you don't have real grasp of a language? It will be difficult for you now to learn it at a later age and grab it.
The respondents tasked the federal government to go beyond a mere pronouncement and fashion out ways for the seamless implementation of the new national language policy.
It's a thing that should not be rushed out. It has to be properly planned, because the materials needed for this dissemination of knowledge may not be readily available. So government should do a kind of thorough planning to make sure that the materials are ready. Even the teachers that will disseminate this knowledge, that will impart this knowledge, are again being given training and retraining of teachers.
We should go beyond introducing the languages to our educational curriculum. We should go into the practicality of the languages so that we carry it on. For example, can I tell you something? Do you know there is a center at the University of Bayreuth in Germany where they study Yoruba language? Do you know at the University of Florida there is an Institute of Yoruba Studies? At my university in Germany, University of Bonn, there is an Institute of Arabic Studies. In Canada now, there is an institute they've set up for Yoruba studies, for Hausa studies, and for all Nigerian languages. If people are studying our own languages, why don't we, the owners of the language, study our language too?
By and large, the clock is already ticking as Nigerians await the outcome of the new national language policy and its impact on the education sector. Oluchi Amuda, OSBC News.
That report concludes today's edition of Dateline on OSBC TV. Thank you for watching. It was produced by David Ojo and assisted by Abridge Lee and DBC. Babatunde Bolatito is my name. I say good night.
This holiday season, StarTimes is taking us to a better level. You can step up your family entertainment with the Star Times upgrade promo. You recharge 2 months on Nova Bouquet and get upgraded to Basic or Smart Bouquet. Recharge 2 months on Basic or Smart Bouquet, you get upgraded to Classic or Super Bouquet. And if you recharge 2 months on Classic or Super Bouquet, you get 10 days free on your subscription. This upgrade automatically qualifies you for a weekly draw to win 55-inch smart TV, PS systems, home appliances, and more. These prizes are proudly sponsored by Longreach, Wayon, and Amaz. This promo is from the 15th November to 15th January 2023. Times and conditions apply. On Star Times, every day is the best day ever. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Star Times. Entertain your family.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Oh, bring us something important. Oh, bring us something important. Oh, bring us something important and bring it right here. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some. So bring it right here. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We all like nothing important. We all like nothing important. We all like nothing important. With all its good cheer. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry